conservatives didn't have an artist that maybe they liked, so instead of just saying, okay, not our day, let's go do something else.
It's
a halftime show, yet it's treated like a crisis. The reaction jumps from not my taste to un-American. That's the tell. When entertainment becomes a political emergency, it's not really about music. It's about who gets the spotlight. On Abby Phillip's panel, you can see that shift. Preference turns into panic, but in a democracy, you won't love every cultural moment. And that's freedom. If you believe inclusion strengthens America, subscribe and join us.
For weeks, conservatives complained about the choice of Bad Bunny as the performer, and President Trump predictably says he was not impressed. He called it, quote, absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever, and an affront to American greatness. But you didn't hear Bad Bunny mention ICE, he didn't mention immigration. Instead, he celebrated his Puerto Rican roots, and he ended the show by marching out to a parade of flags with these words on the big screen: the only thing more powerful than hate is love. Now, before spiking the football at the end, with these 4 words emblazoned on it, it said, together we are America. Well, heartwarming, right? I don't know. I mean, I guess this whole thing has been perplexing to me. I mean, conservatives, I'm sure they don't like a lot of the halftime performers, but popular music is popular music. And if you don't like it, just go watch something else.
Yeah,
don't complain about it.
Plenty of things you could be doing instead. I didn't find it super objectionable in comparison to previous halftime shows. It was pretty much equal level of outrage, except there wasn't any outrage, if you want to call, provocative dancing. That was probably the maximum that you could really muster. As far as the America is not great criticism from Trump, maybe he took the Bad Bunny line about, everything is America, or, God bless America, and then he lists like all of the Latin American and Central American countries. But honestly, I don't think that's objectionable either, because I think what that is just a unifying message. And I think most Americans just took it at its artistic performance value, which was family friendly, actually family focused.
There was a wedding that happened.
One of the biggest performers in the world. 3 of the top 10 songs are his. He's an incredible international performer. America, he's a part of America, right? He's Puerto Rican, he's a part of America. This was an opportunity to introduce that part of the culture to a lot of people who never saw it before. I think he did it in a phenomenal way. He made sure the background of Puerto Rico was displayed. It was a chance for us to learn about America and our fellow Americans, and it really should be no controversy.
I mean, first of all, it was really just a fantastic show.
Oh, I was so happy.
It was like watching a movie set, as he moved through the entire show. But we also are having all this anxiety about whether or not it was American. We've had U2, we've had Celine Dion, we've had Coldplay. We've had a lot of international acts with people who literally were not Americans, and nobody cared.
I think 2 things are true at the same time. Number one, I think the conservatives, some of whom are saying this was the worst thing in the world, including the president, I completely disagree. It wasn't the worst thing. It's also not the best Super Bowl halftime show we've ever seen. Some of the praise of it has been over the top to also make political points. And, to your point, there were a lot of people who did leave and didn't watch. They watched Kid Rock, which was also something that was happening at the time. They competed really well, I think, given it was a YouTube-only event. And Kid Rock was mocked, and conservatives were mocked for doing that. So they did do what you said.
It was bad lip syncing.
Only because it was kind of like
it was a response.
The conservatives didn't have an artist that maybe they liked, so instead of just saying, okay, not our day, let's go do something else. There's a lot of insulting happening of the Super Bowl. Jake Paul says, turn off this halftime show, or a fake American citizen performing who publicly hates America. I cannot support that. Kid Rock, this is today. Here's what he said about the Super Bowl halftime production.
Nothing against Jay-Z. I respect him for his hustle and his music, but it seems like there's a little bit of a DEI hire there going on,
I don't know. I mean, that's the stuff.
And that's it can't be about his music.
I mean, I mean, if you want to put DEI on the table, right? If this is about merit, I mean, Jay-Z and his career runs laps around Kid Rock.
Oh, yeah.
So what are we even talking about here?
And
It
even
seems like cultural resentment. And it doesn't seem necessary.
It's the reactionary culture that I think is so insufferable to so many Americans. And if you want to really take the Kid Rock lyrics, you want to take the Bad Bunny lyrics, I mean, come on, it's like a whole nother level. And that's coming from a conservative who's like, this is outrageously
there was a
vulgar.
piece of Kid Rock's lyric where he's talking about underage girls that was highlighted a couple days ago.
And the thing about, you didn't have to speak Spanish to know what he was saying, right? And it was so joyful. It was so upbeat. It was so young kids and people getting married and, iconic.
But even if it wasn't, you don't like the music.
I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't hate the performance.
Even if it wasn't, you don't like the music. It doesn't make it un-American. One, America doesn't have a national language. language, right? And so if he spoke Spanish, he spoke Spanish. He's Puerto Rican, he speaks
However,
Spanish
but
to Puerto
it
Rican.
should be an event
However,
that
but
brought
imagine
people
being so
together.
bigoted that you think, I don't like this music, so it's un-American.
Right.
Well,
Imagine
I don't
being so
think he
bigoted
said.
that
I
you
don't think Bad Bunny set himself up for success, though. He tainted his future performance by his anti-ICE activism that nobody asked for.
Or he elevated his
Yeah,
stature.
he
Or
set
he
himself up for
elevated
success by
himself.
being
No,
the
it's-
top-selling artist right now in the world. He has
But
3
that's why
songs in
so
the
many
top 10.
Americans, I think,
That's why he
tuned
was in the
out.
Super
They
Bowl.
tuned out because they anticipated an anti-law enforcement screed when they would have just
didn't
wanted a
happen.
performance, which didn't happen.
Which didn't happen.
You're right,
So
but that's why you don't use
the
that stage
continued
for that.
hatred of him.
And they had
And by the
great
way, Kid
radio
Rock,
No,
It
honestly,
didn't
Kid Rock
happen.
just did an
I was
anti-woke screed, right? Right when they had,
Yes,
they had the
and
conversation.
he's getting criticized by the left
You
for
were
it.
saying-
Because the artists
you were saying
ought to be able to
both
say
are
what they
cringe.
want.
Resentment.
Both are
What do you
cringe.
mean by
Yeah,
that?
I think the left has had control over entertainment for a while, and we just haven't seen conservative values at this, exposed to the same level. We just haven't. And part of that is, outside of country music, you don't have a whole lot of outspoken conservatives in media. We just don't have in entertainment media. We don't.
But
And I
isn't
think
that like
Abby Phillip lands on something crucial here, and it's the contradiction that drives this entire debate. For years, conservative commentators have positioned themselves as defenders of the free market. Let the market decide. Let consumers choose. Let merit rise. That's the mantra. But listen closely. This is the tell. The moment the market chooses someone outside their cultural comfort zone, the principle vanishes. Suddenly, success must be artificial. Suddenly, it's DEI. Suddenly, it's manipulation. Bad Bunny didn't become one of the most streamed artists on the planet because of a diversity memo. He became that because millions of people, across languages, across borders, connected with the music. They bought tickets. They streamed songs. They filled stadiums. That is the marketplace functioning in real time. And by the very standards conservatives claim to champion, he won. Here's where the contradiction detection matters. If you truly believe in competition, then you accept the outcome, even when you lose. You don't rewrite the rules after the scoreboard is final. Yet what we're seeing from some MAGA figures isn't a critique of style or sound. It's a reframing of popularity itself as illegitimate. And psychologically, that reveals something deeper. This isn't just about one performer. It's about cultural centrality. It's about the discomfort that comes when the spotlight widens and the audience embraces voices that don't reflect a narrow definition of real America. When dominance fades, grievance rises. Instead of adapting to shifting tastes, some choose to frame disagreement as oppression. They act as if criticism equals censorship, as if not being the most celebrated voice in the room equals tyranny. But democracy doesn't promise cultural control. It promises competition. It promises freedom. It promises that anyone can step onto the stage, and the public decides who stays there. And when commentators suggest there should be an automatic equal spotlight for artists who fit their worldview, regardless of demand, that's not free market capitalism. That's preference-seeking protection. The deeper structural frame here is simple. Pluralism means the culture will not revolve around one group forever. It expands. It diversifies. It experiments. That can feel destabilizing. But it is also evidence of a living democracy. Because in a free society, success is earned through connection, not granted through entitlement.
Finally came out and said, I'm not comfortable speaking out as a conservative. And I think we have going on right now with Nicki Minaj, who's getting attacked over this very issue.
Most artists don't speak out about politics. They're successful.
One way or the other.
They're
agree.
successful on
Yeah,
their
that's the
fandom,
point.
on whether
And
people
Bad
love their
Bunny
music,
wasn't
whether
chosen
they
for
are
his
producing
politics.
things that are good.
But there's
So
a
I mean,
bullying culture.
I don't believe that any artist should be judged on their politics. But if it is, in fact,
Depends
that
on the politics.
right-leaning artists are just simply not producing the art that people want to consume, isn't that just merit?
No,
Playing
because
itself
whether
out?
or not someone feels
Because they're not
comfortable
allowed to be
speaking
right.
out in
I'm
favor of
talking
their
about putting
conservative
aside.
values.
I'm talking about putting aside their.
Here's the truth we need to confront, and it goes straight to the heart of how freedom works in America. Yes, every person in this country has the right to speak their mind. The First Amendment ensures you cannot be jailed or physically attacked for your opinions. That protection is the foundation of our democracy. But here's the nuance many MAGA commentators consistently miss. Freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences. It does not guarantee applause. It does not guarantee loyalty. It does not guarantee an audience. You are free to say what you believe, but no one is required to stream your music, watch your movies, buy your albums, or support your brand simply because you spoke. That is reality. That is how a free society functions. That is how democracy survives. And this is where the contradiction becomes unmistakable. Many on the right, including figures like Jason Rance, Scott Jennings, and Ben Ferguson, act as if disagreement itself is tyranny. If millions of Americans choose an artist like Bad Bunny over someone like Kid Rock, suddenly the outcome is framed as anti-American, anti-conservative, or even a personal attack. But this is not suppression. It is consumer choice. It is the marketplace working as it should. It is the audience exercising judgment and agency. And in a democracy, that matters more than entitlement. Think of it like a friend group. If one member is consistently rude or unpleasant, you do not force the rest to spend time with them simply to make a point about fairness. The same principle applies to culture. The public decides who they support, who they celebrate, and who they elevate. And when the audience gravitates toward a performer like Bad Bunny, it is not a conspiracy. It is preference, plain and simple. Now, let's address political consequences. Some argue artists should be completely shielded from criticism for their political beliefs. I partially agree. No one should face violence, harassment, or legal reprisal. But if the audience decides they no longer want to support a performer because of their views, that is not oppression. That is accountability. That is the natural feedback loop in a functioning democracy. Freedom always comes with responsibility. Expression always comes with response. And here's the ironic layer. Many of these same MAGA voices spent years mocking safe spaces on college campuses, arguing against any environment that protected feelings or ideas. Yet now, when the cultural spotlight shifts away from their comfort zone, they demand their own protected bubble, a world where criticism cannot reach them, disagreement is silenced, and their feelings are insulated. That is not free speech. That is entitlement disguised as principle. This shows a core truth about American democracy. Freedom lets you speak, but it doesn't guarantee dominance or applause. Popularity is earned, and criticism isn't oppression. When Jason Rance, Scott Jennings, and Ben Ferguson treat a Super Bowl halftime show as a rights violation, it reveals the clash between entitlement and the marketplace of ideas. Democracy is messy and pluralistic. It won't always be comfortable, but it guarantees opportunity. And that's how culture and ideas thrive.
Music, on the art, on the acting.
But do you think that there is closer to a 50-50 in artists who are conservative versus liberals, or do you think that?
No, you're missing the point. Bad Bunny wasn't chosen because of his politics. He was chosen because he's a good artist. He just happened to have views you don't agree with.
Oh, 100%. Yes, no one here is saying
he's talented, right?
Of course he's talented. I don't think he was chosen for his politics necessarily. I do think it was chosen in the context of the political world that we're now living in.
Chosen for the Super Bowl specifically?
Yeah. You're highlighting.
But I'm talking about the fact that he is one of the most, if not the most popular musician on the planet.
Right now.
That was before he was talking about ICE, before he was talking about any of this stuff.
Yes, but they were also concurrent because he was also going after ICE. He's been going after ICE for a while.
This was before Donald Trump was president.
Yeah.
Before ICE. Bad Bunny was a massive music star globally.
Yes.
He brought in
has nothing to do with
the reason why he got on the attention of conservatives who expressed some reservations was because of his political stances in a context in which conservative viewpoints generally not put on display.
You're right that that's the reason that conservatives started paying attention to him. That is not the reason that he is a massive star.
Yeah,
he is a massive star.
I don't know anyone's
You're right. The reason he was actually chosen is because Roger Goodell wants the NFL to go global, and he wants to expand into the Latin America markets.
Bingo.
That's why he's chosen.
That's capitalism.
Right.
Rance argues that if an artist like Bad Bunny or Taylor Swift receives massive attention simply because people genuinely connect with their work, there must be a conservative star elevated to the exact same level. Same spotlight, same popularity, same recognition. And here's the catch. It doesn't matter if the audience actually demands it. This is entitlement masquerading as fairness. It's a demand for manufactured equality, not a reflection of real-world choices. That's where the irony hits hardest. Conservatives regularly claim that the media landscape is dominated by left-leaning actors, hosts, and platforms. Yet, in reality, many corporate executives running major networks lean conservative. Entire networks like Fox News exist to serve right-wing audiences. Platforms for conservative creators already exist. If conservatives truly believed in the free market, the solution would be straightforward. Create music, films, and shows that resonate, and let the audience decide. If people connect, they will succeed. If they don't, that's the market at work. But here's the structural challenge. Much of the content aimed at conservative audiences does not resonate with a broad, diverse public. And that isn't conspiracy, it's reality. Creative communities naturally attract innovators, people who question norms, push boundaries, and experiment. Conservatism, by contrast, is rooted in preserving tradition and maintaining the status quo. When future-focused, experimental artists emerge, tension is inevitable. And it's this tension that commentators like Rance consistently misread. Instead of recognizing that audience preference drives popularity, they frame it as unfair treatment or bias. They imagine a perfectly even cultural playing field, where the voices they prefer must receive identical promotion, praise, and attention as every other artist. That is not how life works. It is not how a free market works. Popularity, attention, and influence are earned, not guaranteed. Taste, not tyranny, decides who rises. Abby Phillip hits the nail on the head. If you don't like a performance, the solution is simple. Change the channel. But for some MAGA figures, freedom of speech alone is never enough. They don't just want to speak. They want guaranteed cultural dominance. They want equal billing, regardless of audience choice. The moment someone prefers a different voice or perspective, it's framed as oppression rather than natural disagreement. This moment is about far more than a Super Bowl halftime show. It exposes a deeper cultural and structural clash: entitlement versus pluralism, dominance versus democracy, comfort versus freedom. It shows how some political movements respond when the cultural center shifts and when audiences embrace voices outside their comfort zone. The takeaway is clear. This isn't censorship or bias. It's democracy in action. Audiences choose, preferences shift, and influence is earned, not demanded. When conservative commentators act as if their rights are violated, it reflects frustration over losing automatic cultural authority. Are these reactions just about slipping influence, or do they reveal a deeper clash between entitlement and pluralism?